Got a submission here from FPV Tripper, just looking for some tuning advice. I think the tune is reasonable, but looks messy. You are running Betaflight 235 with Lux Float, and you're running 60/40 props. So the 6-inch props are certainly going to affect your tune. Nothing wrong with that, but they will definitely affect your tune. Also, you're running a 2000 kV motor. So the 2000 kV motor combined with the 60/40 props is going to combine to make the vibration from your motors and props be stronger at lower frequencies, which means it's going to be a little less filtered given the same cutoffs, which is no reason you still can't get a great tune, but it is going to be a little bit different. And I've got your config dump here. And I notice you're running Gyro LPF 188. So that is slightly more filtering. That's like 1 notch more filtering than just turning it off entirely, which may be correct for what you're doing with the 6-inch props and the 2000 kV motors. Also, you've got no filtering on the D term, and you've got a 60 Hertz Gyro LPF. And that's all sort of baseline defaults. So with that in mind, let's take a look at your gyros, and we'll do the zoom out to 10%. We'll see how your gyros look. And your gyros look pretty thin. The lines are pretty thin, which means that you're not having much of a problem with vibrations. I think you could certainly consider turning off the Gyro LPF and going to Gyro LPF equals off. Where is that? That's somewhere in here. Here it is. So you might consider going Gyro LPF equals off. The gyros will get a tiny bit noisier, but you may get a little sharper response, a little better prop wash handling, and so forth and so forth. You may like how that handles better. That's your call. But the thinness of these lines indicates to me that you can afford to have a little less filtering, probably. So then let's just take a basic look at your tune and see if we can sharpen up your tune. We'll start with roll. And we'll zoom into 100%. And I'm seeing, as you go to high throttle, strong oscillations in the P term. And consistent. And let's see if we can hear that in the motors as you do that. Oh, we'll go back in here. Okay, let's see if we can see that in the motors as you do that. So we can definitely hear that in the motors as well. So I think that if I can hear the motors oscillating, then I feel like I probably want to fix that, even if I maybe can't quite see it in the video, in the high def video. So I think your P gain on roll might be a little high. Let's just check your D gain. 14. That's not too high. It's maybe a little high for Betaflight, but so I would probably take this down because it looks like you're having some P term oscillation on roll, and if P is not really well tuned, then I don't want D to be even doing anything. So I would take D back down to about 5, and then tune your P a little bit better, and then work your D back up again. It feels like your P is too high right now, and it's making the motors a little messy, especially at high throttle. How is it at lower throttle? We're not seeing any, well, there's some activity here, nothing wrong with that. D certainly looks very active. Given how low the throttle is and how little the P term is moving here, D looks really active. What's going on here? Are you dropping through prop wash or something? Let's watch. Not really. I mean, you did drop your throttle, but yeah, I don't know what happened there. That's a little weird. Yeah. So I feel like maybe roll D could come down, and that by itself might make things better. See, look here, right here, you're only at like 1400 throttle, and you already are seeing strong oscillations on the P term. This is past the point of just, the P term is working. It's surging, I sometimes call it. and definitely to the point where it is, I would consider this to be not a good P situation here. Let's just watch and see if we see anything while that's happening. Yeah, the motors sound really... What's going on with those motors? Do you hear that? Let's watch that again. Oh, what was that? And your copter got all sloppy. There's kind of a weird, like a woo sound, and your copter gets all sloppy. Let's look at your motor traces here real quick. Like it just gets all sloppy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything crazy here in the motor traces, but yeah, something is up. What was that? I don't know if that's like a desync. That doesn't feel like a desync. Maybe. I don't know. But your D term, I think it's really clear that your D term is too high on roll. So I would take that down and see if the P term cleans up. Because if the D term is high, see, look, here you are again at mid throttle, and things are just kind of flipping out. Let's watch that one. There it is again. There's like these weird... Are you doing that with the stick? I don't think you are. Oh, you are. You did that with the stick. There you go. I thought that was a tuning thing, but where it just rolls to the right suddenly. But no, that was you on the stick. Okay. But there's all kinds of weird harmonics in your motors. You can hear it. It's kind of like it's harmonics. It's overtones in the motors. I can hear them, and that's not good. So let's say you definitely want to take your roll D down. Take it down to 5. And then check your P and see if your P calms down. And if your P doesn't calm down, see how you're at mid throttle here and your P term is oscillating this regular sinusoidal, regular frequency, and then sort of surging magnitude up and down. See, strong, getting weaker. This right here is very classic P-term oscillation. But if your D gain is too high, it can push your P-term into oscillation. So first take your D down to 5, then drop your P on roll down to 1.3. That's a pretty big drop. I mean that on purpose. Drop it down to 1.3. Now, well, first drop your D on roll down to 5 and see if things clean up. And if things substantially clean up, then drop it down to maybe 1.4, 1.5, start feel out where your P needs to be. But if you drop your D on roll down to 5 and your P still looks messy, it means it's just way too high. And drop it down to like 1.3 and maybe work it back up slowly. This is too much oscillation here. We kind of want to see something more like, I'm going to just try and pick a section here. We would want to see something more like this, where the P term is active and working. You don't want to see it just sitting there doing nothing, but it's not moving into these strong oscillations like this, except maybe during prop wash when you do a very sharp turn or when you descend and you just drop the throttle and fall for 30 feet and then jam the throttle. Maybe you could get some oscillation there if that's okay with you. But the fact that we're just seeing it here when you're not really doing anything at mid-throttle indicates something isn't right. Yeah, and here we got all kinds of high-frequency nonsense. So it feels like D gain is too high here. That's what it feels like to me. Let's look at pitch. Go straight to this high throttle period. Let's just watch it. Again, we're definitely seeing oscillation here on the P term. Regular, look at the distance between these peaks. Do you see how it's fairly consistent? That's a regular frequency changing magnitude and straight, almost sinusoidal lines. That's P term oscillation right there. That's what that is. So again, same thing as roll, same thing on pitch. Drop your D down to 5. Then if that doesn't clean up immediately, drop your P a good chunk, like 17. See, I would never want to have D this high unless I was confident my P was just right where it needed to be, and then start working D up slowly. If P is the slightest bit out of whack, D will just shove it right over the edge, okay? So drop your D down to 5 and drop this down to, let's say, 1.8. If it doesn't clean up. If you drop the D and it cleans up, then work the D up slowly, you see? But if you drop the D and the P is still out of line and still having oscillations, then drop the P and work the P up slowly. Let's have a look. Yeah, I don't think there's any like flip. Oh, is that a flip? What was that? Let's have a look there. Oh, you just hit a branch. Okay. Let's look at yaw. And yaw looks to a lot of times when there's problems like this, the yaw axis is what's causing it. But your yaw axis looks pretty decent. Let's look at the high throttle. See, even at high throttle, yaw is not flipping out. The P term is not flipping out. So your yaw axis is probably about where it needs to be. You don't have any D on yaw. That's fine. Yaw often doesn't need it. I would leave yaw alone. It looks fine. Once you get your tune way more locked in, maybe you'll want to tweak P and I just a little on yaw to go for a certain feel of the way the turns feel. But I think you got more work to do on pitch and roll before we decide that we need to start tweaking yaw. Yaw looks about right. The magnitude of the oscillations, or not oscillation isn't the right word, the magnitude of the P term going up and down on yaw doesn't seem excessive to me. So, all right, that's what I got. I definitely think there's a clear path forward for your tuning. The biggest thing I see right now is that you have tons of oscillation, both at mid throttle and at high throttle, and your D terms look overactive. So I would drop the D gains down to basically nothing on pitch and roll. If that doesn't immediately clean up the P terms, drop the P terms by just a good chunk, like 0.4 or 0.5, which will almost certainly clean them up, and then work them back up again until you start to see the P terms being active but not moving over to the point of oscillation, except in the most extreme flight conditions. And then, if you like the way it flies at that point, don't mess with the D. Maybe knock the D up just a little bit, like to 7 or 8. But especially in the recent releases of Betaflight, you hardly need any D gain, especially if you're running at 2 kilohertz or 4 kilohertz or 8 kilohertz. You hardly need any D to get a really good flying copter, not like before where you had to find this delicate balance of P and D. All right, hope that's helpful. Happy flying.